Hello everyone, my name is Dragothien, and today we're going to continue our March build series where we bring you marches that give specific tools for you in the battlefield. The shield thrower build was the first one that I did. The pop-up up top here is where you want to go to see that video after you've watched this one. This is going to be called the atomic bomb build because what it does is it will debuff your target to the point where any skill damage done to it feels like it's an atomic bomb hitting it. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so. This is a sponsored content creation channel for Rise of Kingdoms. You need to make sure that you come back here every day to learn better tips, tricks, guides, value plays on the field, real knowledge on how to fight in KVK, what builds you should be putting together, what's the best trees, the best equipment, the best commanders that you should be using, and how you should invest in your account to get there in the best way possible and the cheapest way possible. Welcome back, everybody. The build we're going to be talking about today is, again, the atomic bomb build, and what this is going to be is Boudica Prime and Tamiris. The point of this build is to give your target the highest skill damage taken debuff possible, and the way we're able to do that is by utilizing the skills from Prime Boudica and Tamiris together in this order to get that accomplished. Now what we're going to do today is we're going to go over the skills that actually make this possible. We're going to go over the talent build that you should use. We're going to go over the equipment that you should be using, the accessories you should be using, why this works, what situations that you should be using this for, and we'll also go over the benefits and the shortcomings of this March build. So again, first let's talk about the skills and what makes this build work and why I kind of put this together for you guys. First off, Boudica Prime's primary skill does an insane amount of damage, but the thing that makes this build the way it works is it does a skill damage taken debuff on your target of 35% whenever you have the first skill maxed. Now, you don't need to have an expertise to make that happen, although your damage will increase if you do, but 35% skill damage taken is a debuff instantly stacked on that target, and you reduce their march speed by 30%, which is also nice for the open field. But the point we're focusing on here is the 35% skill damage taken debuff that you're applying to your target. Then if we look at Tamiris's fourth skill, what she does is she stacks a poison skill up, and every single stack that you do, and each stack is done by just normal attacking the target, you get 3% skill damage taken debuff added to that target as well. So what happens is you combine the first skill from Boudica with this skill in the same build, and you can guarantee for 2 seconds a very substantial amount of skill damage. The relevant piece of this, though, is again how many stacks we get with this build, Boudica being primary, Tamiris being secondary. Let's jump into the field and we'll go over a battle report really quick, and I'll show you how much skill damage will stack up for you in your scenarios. Now, as we're attacking this barbarian, you can notice that the dot damage on the target keeps stacking up every single second, and again, because Tamiris is behind Boudica, she has maximum chance to stack up that debuff. As you saw the last time we hit this barbarian, it went up to 12. This time it's down to 8 because as the skill cycles fire off, you get faster because you get rejuvenate, which helps you out when it comes to actually cycling your skills. But again, in a murder ball situation, you generally don't see that. You won't have 2 full skill cycles going off in one sitting. You're going to be doing a skill cycle at most, usually. And again, that's where you start to see this stack up and do a significant amount of damage. And if you can fire off this first skill from Boudica, you're going to make this target be severely debuffed for skill damage. Let's jump into the battle log really quick and show you exactly what I mean. All right, so here we are in the battle log. And again, if we go in each turn, right? So we click each turn here. On the enemy, they see plus 3% starting on turn 2. So turn 2, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, and then we have 30. Now that's the first skill. Whenever Boudica starts firing off her skill, it jumps from 30 to 68%. That's turn 12. Then turn 13, you get another tick on Tamiris, which brings you up to 71% on the skill damage taken debuff on your target. That's a 71% damage buff on your target for skill damage. And again, if you're firing out a Nevsky, if you're firing out a Boudica Prime, if you're firing out a Scipio Prime, if you're firing out a Flavius, that's 2,300 skill damage with a 71% damage buff on it. That is huge. On top of all the other KBK tech, on top of all damage bonuses that you may have from commanders. And then obviously, if you have the ring, you also have the potential of firing off the ring, which will give you a 50% damage bonus on top of all of that. As you can see in the footage behind me, you're moving around with multiple marches, 5 to 7, depending on what your tech is inside of KVK, and you're going to be swarming a particular target. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to be hitting them with your Boudica Prime Tamiris March, and you're going to instantly start, as you can see on that Ramses, you're going to instantly start ticking that skill damage debuff on your target. And again, if you can get that first skill fired off, every single one of the second commanders in all of your marches are going to fire off their skills with 71% damage on the target available for them to take advantage of. That's why you want, in this kind of situation, your heavy hitting damage dealers on the back side of all of your marches. Now, what are some of the other ways that you can use this as well? Well, in my mind, this is a great second rally inside of any KVK situation. You have, from a rally meta standpoint, Gilga Henry, you've got Pakal Herald, not as much to a certain extent. You've also got XY Nevsky, you've got Attila Nevsky, Nevsky being the key here. The damage those guys are doing is insane. If we're talking Gilga, you're doing over 100k damage over the course of the dots and things like that with the Blood Craze effect. If you have Nebu in there, you're doing another over 100 plus K damage on all this stuff. Sometimes you're hitting 200k with Nevsky as a secondary commander already. Imagine adding 71% damage factor to that as well on top of what they're already doing. The numbers are going to be astronomical if you try this out for yourself. Debuffing the target, debuffing the pass, the fort, whatever, is going to be massive for your primary rally, causing significant damage on top of it. And if you're in a triple rally situation and you can get a third rally on a target where, again, it's an XY Nevsky or it's a Gilga Henry or a Henry Boudica or something like that, right? I mean, this skill damage will absolutely hit like a Mack truck atomic bomb. Now, what are some of the shortcomings of this build? Well, I think honestly it has to do with Tamiris and the fact that she's a little bit outdated when it comes to the damage factor that she provides and things like that. But she's actually, in my opinion, one of the most underrated commanders in the game when it comes to what she brings to the field. She still does decent damage even as an older generation commander. And what she helps the newest generation commanders do is something that you can't find anywhere else. Again, Boudica being one of the only other damage dealers to actually be able to skill damage debuff your target. All right, let's jump into the actual talent build for Boudica on this atomic bomb build. Let's show you what you should be using. If you look behind me here, this is the full archer tree going up to whistling arrows. And again, for the skill tree, you're going full rejuvenate, full clarity. This is basically your prototypical archer build as it sits in the meta today. You can certainly peel maybe one rejuvenate off to get an extra point into Razor Sharp. For most builds in the game from an archer standpoint, most people from an archer perspective don't use Feral Nature because Whistling Arrows is just so good. Not only are we talking about the 71% debuff that we got before, but this also gives you a 10% chance to increase all damage dealt by 25% for 2 seconds, which, if this again combines with the time that you're doing the debuff and casting the skills, woo, it's incredible. On top of the fact that you should have a ring on this build as well, which we'll get to in a minute, which will give you another 50% damage. It's all stacking up. You can feel it stacking up, right? The energy of all this damage piling up is absolutely incredible. You also have Phoenix Tail arrows causing even more damage factor, which will take advantage of all the debuffs that we're talking about On this build, we also have Venomous Sting, increasing the skill damage of both the primary and the secondary commanders by 8%, stacks on top of everything. We also have Clarity, which does another 6% for the active skill, and after using an active skill, increasing skill damage by 6% for the secondary commander, basically. We also have All for One, which after primary commander uses a skill, active skill damage of the secondary commander increased by 6%. And then we have Tactical Mastery, led by this commander, deal 3% increased skill damage on top of all of that. It's all stacking up. There's so much damage coming out from this build. That's why it's called the Atomic Bomb build. Let's go into the equipment. Okay, so on the equipment side, let me go ahead and drop my camera and I'll show you what we're talking about. And we'll walk through the different levels that you should be looking at when we're talking about gearing up an Archer Commander. Okay, so this is a decent like middle set for an Archer Commander primary to use. Again, remember, only the primary commander in a march utilizes equipment. You don't need this for both commanders inside of your march. You will get no extra benefit from that setup. But this is going to be kind of a middle one. The reason I say it's a middle one is because your top tier is going to be a full 6-piece legendary Archer set, which I'll show you in just a minute. This, on the other hand, is kind of a hybrid. Using the revival set, helm, gloves, and pants, you're able to kind of get together something that's really, really helpful for you and give you everything you need when it comes to giving you stats. So, for instance, the helm gives you 10% defense. The greaves give you another 10% defense. The weak link here is definitely going to be the attack revival gauntlets of 6%, but you're going to eventually upgrade those to the legendary set piece Dragon's Breath set. And then again, the boots, until you upgrade to the Dragon's Breath boots, is going to give you 7.5% health on the flame treads, which is very, very good. Now again, on the Dragon's Breath bow, this is a 20% defense bonus. You obviously want to crit all of your legendary gear. You also certainly have the Archer health 11% here from the Dragon's Breath plate. And again, your next one that you would want to replace here in the process is going to be the gloves. Now, what should you use as you walk up to this? Well, certainly you can change out the breastplate. There's I think it's called Commander's breastplate or something like that. It's a blue piece of equipment in the forge where it gives you a good stat for archers. The weapon, you can use the Golden Age until you get up to the Dragon's Breath bow. Otherwise, this is kind of the basis for any quality archer setup. Now, what does the top tier look like? The absolutely cream of the crop, the best of the best. Let's go check that out. This is going to be your quintessential best archer setup. This even includes iconic on all of the equipment here. The 6-piece set is full iconic, full crit. This is exactly what you're looking for at the top tier when you're talking about rallying. Now, of course, from an accessory perspective, you want to also have those crit, but very difficult to do unless you are investing pretty decently into the game or you're extremely, extremely lucky. But in the meantime, for the open field, I would suggest using a ring, which again gives you that 50% increase to damage for 2 seconds. You have a 10% chance to proc that off, and you can trigger it once every 5 seconds. And this does go off quite often in the battle report. And again, I use the dagger on this build because I don't want to generate too much rage on this build, because again, the more ticks you have on Tamiris before she fires off her skill, the more damage you're going to debuff your target for when the time comes. So you don't want to necessarily play a horn here or even a Kerouac's war drum here, although you obviously have no control if one of your other marches or an ally's march fires off their Kerouac's war drums and gives you rage. But for you personally, you want to make sure that you're not using a rage generating accessory. So again, you can also fire off a Mora's Web in here. You can certainly go into the, and I don't have them on this account because I have full legendary, but you can go Delane's Amulet, you can go Silent Trial. Those are great options if you don't have any legendary pieces. Any kind of march speed bonus as well is perfectly fine if that's all you have available to you. But again, if you have legendary accessories, dagger, ring is a must. You gotta have the must in the sense that if you have it, you should be using it. And then again, if you want to go for the second accessory, dagger, vengeance, coin to a certain extent, but it's not really very valuable. Mora's Web and Greatest Glory have much more value than the coin does. But that's how I would kind of spec out the accessories and the gear in general. But again, what you want to start rooting for is this one right here. Eventually getting to this point, it will take time. It takes time for heavy spenders, let alone folks who don't heavy spend. So be patient with this. You'll get there. I've been playing this game for almost 4 years. That's why I'm able to give you the advices that I give you on this channel, but also show you the top tier gear that a 4-year player will have to bring to the battlefield. So to summarize on this build, what does it do? Exactly what you see in front of you. We have so many ticks of damage, debuffing the target. You also have Boudica debuffing the target, and when you combine all the other benefits that the archer class has when it comes to the archer tree, the skill damage tree, the accessories that you're going to be using, it all stacks up to even this march on its own causing an absurd amount of damage. But what your benefit really truly is debuffing for everybody else, because when you debuff your target, it's not just you getting that debuff benefit, it's you, your other marches, and all of your other alliance and kingdom marches in KVK, coalition marches, all that. Anybody hitting that target will receive the benefit from that 68% skill damage taken debuff on the target, which will instantly melt anything on the battlefield. It could be a Bakal, it could be a Harold Alex, it could be a Leo out there, and everybody will be all upset. I won't be upset because every Leo on the field should be dead. But you get my drift. So, and then as far as rally is concerned, again, this is a great, in my opinion, second or third rally. Well, second or third rally. You shouldn't have 2 of these, in my opinion. There's no value to have 2. You should only have 1. So second or third rally, if you're talking about rallying a target that has the capability to be multiple rallied, this is a great thing to bring to the table. The skill damage you're going to do is absurd, and it's going to be hard for people to reinforce these structures if they're taking that kind of damage. And then when you're talking about swarming that target as well, which rally and swarm is the meta, has been for a long time, and especially if you're in a bigger kingdom, you're going to have to rally and swarm a lot of things to take them down and get them burning if you have a competent opponent, which, again, in bigger kingdoms you tend to have. So you're going to be needing every little ounce of skill damage bonus that you can possibly eke out. This build does it for you. And again, this is the Atomic Bomb build. I was thinking about naming it A Song of Fire and Poison, but I didn't go that route. It's the Atomic Bomb skill damage taken build. We'll see you guys next time. Cheers, have a good one, and take care.